Welcome to today's session. We are looking at a really fascinating stack of research today, focusing on uh, nervous system regulation, quantum potential, and psychological manifestation.
Yeah, it's a brilliant collection of concepts. Our mission today is to basically figure out why sheer willpower usually fails you and, how to become the actual architect of your reality instead.
Right, because usually when you think about waking up and facing the day, society sells you this expectation of, a, well, a blank slate, right? An empty canvas.
Oh, absolutely. It's this wonderful ideal. We're sold this concept that sleep is basically an eraser and you're supposed to wake up utterly unburdened by yesterday's struggles.
Yeah, but let's look at the actual lived experience of a typical Tuesday morning for, the overwhelming majority of people. That blank canvas is already covered in dark, chaotic scribbles before consciousness even fully kicks in.
Oh, without a doubt. It happens instantly.
Think about your own morning. You wake up, the alarm shatters the silence, and before your feet even touch the floor, a tidal wave of anxiety just washes over you.
You haven't even moved, yet you start mentally scrolling through your day. The bills, the endless tasks piling up, that difficult conversation you have to have.
Exactly. You feel like you're already running on a treadmill at maximum speed, but you aren't actually moving forward. You look around at your physical environment, maybe the clutter in your room or the walls of an apartment you desperately want to leave, and you feel this overwhelming sense of being entirely trapped.
Right. It is the absolute definition of psychological suffocation. I mean, you wake up and immediately strap on this heavy iron armor of stress. You're bracing for impact before the day has even begun.
And the frustration there is just so incredibly palpable because from the dawn of our understanding, we are taught that to change our world, we must exert intense, relentless physical effort.
We grind, we hustle, we push our shoulders against the immovable boulder of reality.
Yeah, and yet year after year, we find ourselves completely exhausted, staring at the exact same problems. Your bank account looks the same, your stress levels feel the same. Why does sheer brute force willpower feel like trying to empty an ocean with a sieve?
Well, it's because you're approaching the fundamental mechanism of reality from completely the wrong end. I mean, you have been heavily conditioned by society to believe that the dense physical world around you is the raw material you're supposed to sculpt.
Like, if you want more money, you physically move your body more hours at a job.
Exactly. If you want a better relationship, you physically arrange circumstances to force an outcome. But the core realization we're unearthing from these materials today is completely counterintuitive to that.
Okay, lay it on me.
The physical world you are so desperately trying to change is not the starting line of your reality. It is the finish line.
Wait, if the physical world is the finish line, then trying to change my life by just working more hours or shifting physical objects around is essentially trying to repaint a house by scratching at the mirror reflecting it. I'm just clawing at the glass.
That is precisely what you are doing. You are clawing at the glass. We completely mistake the end result, the final manifestation, for the raw material of creation.
That is, wow, that's a massive shift in perspective.
It really is. And today we're going to explore the mechanics of how you actually become the first cause of your own reality. We're going to map out a sequence of habits and mental frameworks to move your focus away from the solidified reality of the present and redirect it into the boundless spectrum of potential.
I want to stick with that mirror analogy for a second because it really clarifies things for me. If you look in a mirror and you realize you don't like the shirt you are wearing, you don't take a marker and try to color over the glass.
Right, that would be completely insane.
Exactly. You physically change the shirt and the mirror automatically reflects the new reality.
Right.
But in our lives, we're constantly taking markers to the glass. We try to manipulate the physical bank accounts, the physical arguments, without ever changing the source of the reflection.
Yeah. And to understand how to change that source, we have to deeply examine the architecture of reality itself. We need to divide existence into three vast, interconnected planes.
Okay, let's break those down.
The first is the spiritual plane. And don't think of this in a dogmatic or religious sense. Think of it as an endless ocean of pure potential.
Like a realm of raw possibilities.
Exactly. In this realm, every conceivable outcome, every version of your life already exists as a latent, unformed possibility. Nothing needs to be fabricated from scratch. Everything is simply waiting in a state of suspension.
So it's kind of like walking into a limitless, infinite library. Every single book that could ever possibly be written, the book where I become a CEO, the book where I go bankrupt, the book where I move to the mountains, They're all already sitting on the shelf.
That's a highly accurate way to conceptualize it. It is a boundless archive of potential. You are simply the selector.
Okay, so what's the second plane?
Then we move to the second realm, which is the mental plane. This is the forge of creation. This is where your focus, your awareness, and your emotional resonance act as the gravitational pull.
So the mental plane is basically the bridge between that infinite library and my actual living room.
You've got it. What you hold in your mind, what you truly viscerally focus on, begins to undergo a process of density. It begins to take form.
And then finally we arrive at the third realm.
The physical plane. The realm you can touch, see, measure, and, bump your knee against.
Right, the stuff that feels overwhelmingly real.
But here is the critical paradigm-altering insight. The physical plane is nothing more than the solidified echo of what has already manifested on the mental plane. It is literally a shadow cast by who you used to be.
Wait, really? A shadow of who I used to be?
Yes. By the time something finally appears in your physical reality, by the time the money hits the account or the eviction notice hits the door, it is already a historical artifact. It is the exhaust fumes of your past consciousness.
A historical artifact. Man, that fundamentally breaks how I view my day. You're saying that the chair I'm sitting in, the specific amount of money in my pocket right now, all of that is already old news. It's just an echo.
It is entirely old news. And when you view it through this lens, the absolute futility of trying to change the physical world exclusively by fighting with it becomes crystal clear.
Because you're fighting a ghost.
Exactly. Furthermore, we have to look at biology here. Our physical human senses perceive a mere fragment of actual reality, a microscopic slice.
Right, because our eyes only see a tiny sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum. We don't see infrared or ultraviolet. Our ears only hear a very narrow band of frequencies.
Spot on. The overwhelming majority of what is actually happening in the universe, the vast interplay of frequencies, the swirling potentials, leaves an endless ocean of unseen activity completely unnoticed by human eyes.
Or biology just filters it out.
It has to. Your senses are biologically designed to filter out the lion's share of reality, just so you can walk across a room without being completely overwhelmed.
So if our biological senses capture only a solitary, tiny spark of the universe, what does that mean for our everyday concept of the truth?
It means our concept of truth is severely limited.
Because we all walk around proudly declaring, seeing is believing. I'll believe it when I see it. But if we are only seeing a mere fragment of reality, then accepting our current physical struggles as the absolute final truth is a massive error in perception.
It really is. You are essentially studying a decayed photograph of the past and calling it your absolute destiny. It's a profound miscalculation that keeps humanity trapped in cycles of suffering.
It makes me think of staring up at the night sky. When you look at a distant star, you aren't seeing that star as it is right now. You are seeing the light that left that star an incredibly long time ago.
That is a perfect analogy.
By the time that starlight finally travels across the vastness of space and hits your retina, the actual star itself might have completely evolved, or it might have exploded and ceased to exist entirely.
Yes. Our current physical reality is just starlight from our past thoughts.
We're looking at a dead star, a past version of ourselves, and panicking, thinking, oh my God, this is my reality right now?
The starlight analogy perfectly captures the mechanism of delay. The physical plane is incredibly dense. It has a heavy, slow lag time. It takes a significant passage of time for the mental selection to solidify into physical form.
Okay, I get the starlight analogy. It sounds beautifully poetic, but I have to push back here. It completely falls apart for me when I check my bank account and see zero.
I completely understand that. It's the most common point of friction.
Because starlight doesn't evict you from your apartment. A delayed echo doesn't make your stomach grumble when you can't afford groceries. When you stub your toe, the pain feels overwhelmingly real. How do you tell a single mother working 2 jobs that her exhaustion is just a historical artifact?
You are absolutely right, and it is crucial to address that directly. You cannot just ignore the physical world. If your fridge is empty, you must acquire food. If a bill is due, you must navigate paying it.
Right, I can't just pretend the bill isn't there.
Exactly. The philosophy here is not a mandate for delusion or severe neglect of your physical responsibilities. You still have to care for your children, water your plants, and put fuel in your vehicle.
Okay, so I still have to participate in the physical world. I still deal with the empty fridge.
Yes. But the fatal error in the mechanism of creation is letting the empty fridge dictate your biology and your future focus. The goal is to strip the physical world of its absolute tyrannical authority over your internal emotional state.
Stripping it of its authority. So I acknowledge the eviction notice is taped to the door, but I refuse to let that piece of paper dictate my core identity or convince me that my future is doomed.
Precisely. You acknowledge the physical reality as a piece of data. It is a neutral marker of where your consciousness was stationed in the past, but you withdraw your core consciousness from that echo.
You plant it somewhere else.
You plant it firmly in the realm of creation, the mental plane. You interact with the physical world as a custodian. You are simply sweeping the floors and managing the echoes of the past, while your true creative energy is dedicated entirely to selecting the new reality.
So it's almost like a dual existence. You are physically managing the present, which is really just cleaning up the past, while mentally and emotionally inhabiting the future.
That is exactly it.
That is a mind-bending way to walk through a grocery store on a Tuesday.
It requires a monumental shift in orientation. Because consider the alternative. If you spend all your time agonizing over the echo, crying over the starlight, you are taking the immense power of your mental plane and using it to perfectly recreate the exact same echo for tomorrow.
Oh, wow. You are caught in a self-sustaining feedback loop.
A completely closed loop. You look at the physical lack, you feel the terror of lack in your body, and the forge immediately begins constructing more lack for your future.
That feedback loop is terrifying. Because if the mind is the forge, and my tension and my panic are feeding it, well, then the logical solution would be to just sit down, close my eyes, and think positive thoughts.
Which is what everyone tries first.
Right. But I've tried that. I've sat in a freezing apartment with my car actively being towed outside and tried to think, I am wealthy. I am calm. And it felt like a complete joke. My brain just screamed, no, you aren't. Why can't I just think my way out of the feedback loop?
Because your biology is blocking the bridge. You simply cannot outthink a nervous system that is actively fighting for its life.
Biology. Okay, let's unpack that.
This brings us to the most critical yet frequently ignored mechanism of manifestation. The biological gateway of physical relaxation and nervous system regulation. You cannot access the mental plane of creation if your body is clenched in a state of high stress.
Let's really dig into the mechanics of this, because society has conditioned us to do the exact opposite. Let's deconstruct hustle culture for a second.
No, please do. We desperately need to.
Yeah. We equate physical relaxation with laziness. We view stillness as a lack of ambition. We've been trained to view a constant state of hypervigilance, running on adrenaline and 4 hours of sleep, as a literal badge of honor.
It's toxic.
It is. I used to think that operating in a state of constant low-level panic made me a warrior. The person who grinds the hardest, constantly stressed out, and checking emails at 2 a.m., that is the person we culturally celebrate as destined for success.
We've built an entire culture around celebrating the biological state of terror. That is essentially what hypervigilance is at a cellular level.
Say forever.
Biologically, yes. When you are stressed about a deadline, your amygdala, the ancient threat detection center of your brain, cannot tell the difference between a late credit card payment and a physical predator hunting you in the woods.
So my body thinks I'm about to be eaten by a tiger just because I have unread emails.
Exactly. It triggers the sympathetic nervous system. It floods your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate accelerates. Your digestion shuts down. Your entire organism is marshaling all of its resources to fight or flee.
It's a great mechanism if you're actually running from a tiger.
Brilliant for evading a tiger, but as a baseline state of being for creating a magnificent, complex life, it is biologically disastrous.
Because when you are bracing against the world like that, your body becomes dense. You become a fortress, an impenetrable wall.
Precisely. To connect with universal energy, to interface with that infinite library of the spiritual plane, the body must enter the parasympathetic state.
The rest and digest state.
Yes, this is the biological state of repair and deep vulnerability. The physical body must feel entirely, undeniably safe to adopt a new reality. If your biological vehicle believes it is under imminent attack, it will aggressively reject any mental vision of abundance as a dangerous distraction.
Right. It won't allow you to use your bandwidth to imagine a mansion when it thinks you urgently need to find a cave to hide in.
That is a perfect way to put it.
It's like trying to download a massive, beautiful, highly complex software update onto your computer. But the computer is currently fighting off a severe virus, the CPU is maxed out, and all the cooling fans are screaming.
The system is going to reject the update. It simply does not have the processing bandwidth to install a new operating system while it's trying not to crash.
So we have to completely flip the script. What would happen if you applied the same relentless dedication you currently apply to your career to becoming profoundly, deeply relaxed.
When you consciously drop your armor, you transition from acting as a dense barrier to acting as a highly conductive wire for universal energy.
A conductive wire. Man, that metaphor changes everything. It implies that the energy of potential is always there. It's constantly trying to flow through us like electricity in a circuit, but our biological tension is the resistance.
Tension is the only resistance. The energy of infinite potential is a constant. Your biological tension, your clenched jaw, your shallow breathing, that is the dam blocking the river.
So altering your biological state is the non-negotiable first step.
Absolutely. We have to look at the mechanics of the breath. Most people in modern society breathe entirely wrong. They utilize shallow, panicked chest breathing. They breathe rapidly into the very top of their lungs, which constantly signals to the brain that they are in a mild state of suffocation.
I notice I do that when I'm reading a stressful text. I literally hold my breath or I take these tiny, tight little gasps. It feels like the frantic splashing of a shallow puddle.
To open the gateway, you must shift to diaphragmatic breathing. You must physically push the breath deep down into the lower belly. When you expand the diaphragm deeply, you physically stimulate the vagus nerve, which wanders from your brainstem down through your chest and abdomen.
Wait, so there is an actual mechanical button you are pressing inside your body?
Exactly. When the diaphragm expands fully, it massages the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve sends an immediate biological signal back up to the brain saying, the breathing is deep and slow. Therefore, the threat must have passed. Stand down the alarm.
That's incredible.
You forcefully lower your heart rate. You halt the production of cortisol. You shift from the frantic splashing of a puddle to the deep, resonant changing of the tides. A steady, calming ebb and flow that forcibly commands the ancient parts of your brain to surrender.
I really want to emphasize the implications of this, because what we're essentially saying is that doing absolutely nothing, just sitting still, expanding your belly and breathing, is actually the most productive, foundational action you can take to change your chaotic life.
It completely redefines the very concept of productivity.
It feels so incredibly backward to someone who is in a panic and feels the overwhelming need to do something physical.
We have erroneously defined productivity as frantic movement, as aggressively crossing items off a physical list. But true productivity is energetic alignment. If you are frantically, violently rowing a boat in the exact opposite direction of your destination, your intense movement is actively counterproductive.
You're just getting further away faster.
Exactly. When you consciously relax your shoulders, when you force your breath deep into your belly, you stop defending the reality you hate. You lower the drawbridge. And in doing so, you finally open the biological door for the reality you desire to enter.
You stop defending the reality you hate. That is profound. Every single time I tense up in anger at a massive bill or I clench my jaw because of my messy apartment, I am literally wrapping my biological arms around those exact problems and holding them tight against my chest.
You are fiercely defending their right to exist in your space. You are actively feeding them your life force. Muscle tension is a massive expenditure of caloric and electrical energy. Conscious relaxation withdraws that funding.
Okay, so we learn the mechanics of the breath. We intentionally, physically force our shoulders down. Once the body's biological alarms are finally silenced, the static clears. The mind enters a highly receptive state.
And this receptive state is particularly potent in the transitional moments of our day.
Which leads me to think, if my tension is the dam blocking this energy, and I'm naturally most physically relaxed right when I wake up, does that make the first 5 minutes of the day the most critical window for this entire process?
It absolutely does. The morning is the most critical juncture of your entire existence. It is the literal bridge between the planes of reality.
Let's break down why that is.
Okay.
Because when we are asleep, we are entirely untethered from the physical echo. I'm not looking at my bank balance in my sleep.
Right. When you sleep, your consciousness is essentially returning to that vast ocean of potential, the spiritual plane. And when you begin to wake up, you are slowly crossing back over the bridge into the physical world.
What's the neuroscience behind that transition?
As you wake, your brain doesn't instantly snap from deep sleep to high alert. It travels through brainwave states. From the slow delta waves of deep sleep, it moves into theta, and then, crucially, into the alpha wave state.
The alpha wave state. What does that actually mean mechanically for the listener lying in bed?
The alpha state is a rhythmic, resonant frequency in the brain that bridges the gap between the subconscious and the conscious mind. It's a biological state of deep physical relaxation combined with a highly suggestible, incredibly fertile mental ground.
So the mind is wide open.
Yes, because in the alpha state, The analytical, cynical, highly critical part of your brain, the part that looks at your life and says, this is terrible, is not fully online yet. The gatekeeper is still groggy.
Therefore, whatever information you input into your brain during this specific window bypasses the critical filter and plants itself deeply into your subconscious.
Precisely. And what do the overwhelming majority of us do with that incredibly fertile, scientifically precious mental ground?
Oh, it's tragic. The very second our eyes open, we blindly reach for our phones, we look at the news, we look at stressful emails from our boss, we look at the highly curated, envy-inducing lives of others on social media.
We take this pristine, pure state of alpha potential, and we instantly dump the toxic waste of the world's anxieties right into the soil.
It really is a profound tragedy of modern habit. By grabbing the phone, you violently, artificially yank your brain out of the receptive alpha state and hurl it directly into the beta state.
The beta state is the high-frequency brainwave state associated with hyperalertness, stress, and survival processing. You flood your system with cortisol before you have even taken a full breath.
To architect the dawn intentionally, to actually become the creator of your day, you must radically, viciously protect that transition. No screens, no doom scrolling. You must preserve the alpha state.
So instead of checking your email, you lie there. You utilize this quiet space, you stay in that alpha frequency, and maybe just focus on your breathing.
And there's a practice in our research that I find absolutely fascinating. Using that quiet, undefended mental space to ask a highly focused question to your own consciousness. Not a panic question like, how am I going to survive today? But a generative inquiry.
Yes. While remaining perfectly still, you ask your higher consciousness something like, what must I know about today? Or what is the highest truth I can embody in this specific cycle?
The mechanics there are vital. When you ask a question in that receptive alpha state, you aren't searching your frantic logical memory banks for an answer. You are dropping a stone into a deep, still well and allowing the answer to organically bubble up.
Exactly. And once you receive that quiet insight, or even just at a baseline tone of peace, you move into the physical act of intentional journaling.
But again, we have to clarify the mechanics here. This isn't teenage diary journaling where you just list out all your complaints and catalog your anxieties.
No, absolutely not. If the physical world is the echo, journaling about your current problems just violently anchors you back to the echo. This has to be generative journaling. It is the deliberate architectural forging of a new identity.
So you use specific prompts that construct the new reality on the mental plane. A remarkably powerful prompt is, who do I know myself to be?
That is vastly different from who does society tell me I am, or who does my current bank balance say I am. If I look at the physical echo, it might tell me I am broke and struggling. But if I ask who do I know myself to be at my absolute core, I can write, I am a powerful creator, I am fiercely resilient.
You are utilizing the physical act of writing to write a new identity into neurological existence. Another vital prompt is, what am I choosing to release today?
This is how you consciously instruct your nervous system to drop the heavy emotional baggage. You physically write down, I am releasing the anxiety over tomorrow's meeting. I am releasing the resentment toward my past. You unburden your biological vehicle before the demands of the day even truly begin.
I want to explore a really interesting speculation regarding this transition. If we treat the morning as the return trip from the realm of potential, what about the night?
Oh, the evening transition is just as vital.
Right. What if we viewed the act of going to sleep not just as a mundane biological necessity, but as an actual journey into the spiritual plane? We can actively prime that outward journey.
We can listen to specific intentions or declarations of abundance as we are drifting off. As our brain waves slow down from beta to alpha to theta, we saturate our subconscious with a completely new truth before the cynical mind can build its defensive walls.
Because as you drift into sleep, the gatekeeper becomes exhausted and nods off. The gates to the subconscious are left wide open.
If you are actively feeding your mind declarations of immense abundance and profound peace as you cross that threshold, those concepts plant themselves deeply without resistance. You wake up already fertilized with the new potential.
And then, as we wake up and move into our generative journaling, we cultivate that growth. And a massive part of that cultivation, something we absolutely have to unpack carefully, is the incredibly nuanced concept of gratitude.
Yes, gratitude is a massive cultural buzzword right now. Everyone tells you to keep a gratitude journal. But the source materials make a massive critical distinction between the common emotion of gratitude and the profound world-altering intensity of appreciation.
There's a monumental energetic distinction between the two, isn't there?
Huge. Gratitude in its common everyday usage, often carries a very subtle yet toxic undertone of relief, or even a subconscious reminder of previous lack.
Think about the mechanics of saying thank you. You're usually thankful for receiving a gift, specifically because you acutely remember the pain of what it was like not to have it.
Exactly. It's a polite emotion, but energetically, it maintains a slight distance between you and the object of your desire. It implicitly says, thank you for handing this to me over here.
Oh, I see. It's like clinging to a life raft in the middle of a freezing ocean and yelling, "Thank you so much for this life raft. I was actively drowning and terrified." You are still actively referencing the terror of drowning. You are still energetically tethered to the trauma of the lack.
That is a brilliant way to phrase it. You are anchoring the emotion to the past suffering. Appreciation, on the other hand, operates on a completely different frequency.
As
Appreciation is the total immersive joy of experiencing and utilizing the gift in the present moment. It entirely closes the distance between you and the object. You are not just politely thankful for the book, you are savoring every single word on the page. You are entirely consumed by the joyful experience of it.
I absolutely marvel at this nuance because it completely changes how I view my environment. Gratitude says, "I am so glad I finally have a home so I'm not on the street." It literally references the street.
Yes.
Whereas appreciation says, "Look at how beautifully the morning light hits the grain of this wood floor. Feel how incredibly warm and safe this specific room feels." Appreciation is entirely present in the pure joy of the manifestation.
And that state of immersive, unadulterated joy is the exact specific frequency required to pull more of that magnificent reality from the realm of potential into the physical echo. You attract what you intensely appreciate.
But I have to stop us here and put myself in the shoes of a deeply skeptical listener. Because if I'm listening to this on my commute and I'm thinking, okay, this sounds wonderfully poetic, but writing in my journal, I am living a life of boundless abundance and appreciating every moment while I am literally sitting in a tiny, drafty apartment with a leaky ceiling, feels like absolute clinical delusion.
It feels like toxic positivity to them.
Exactly. It feels like I am just completely lying to myself. How is this not just lying?
That is the most common and understandable friction point in this entire process. But what is truly fascinating here is that you are only lying to the physical echo. You are only lying to a decayed historical snapshot of the past.
Right, the Starlight.
To the mental plane, the actual literal forge of your future reality, you are declaring a new, unshakable truth. Remember the biological limitations we established? Your biological senses are capturing a solitary spark of a massive inferno anyway.
Why would you insist on giving your absolute, unwavering allegiance to a decaying physical shell when an endless ocean of unseen potential is waiting for your instructions?
Precisely. You are not lying. You are leading. You are actively leading the physical world to a new destination by establishing the exact coordinates in your mind first. You cannot arrive at a new destination if you refuse to look away from the current scenery.
Okay, so setting the intention in the protected alpha state of the morning is the foundation. We've regulated our nervous system, we are breathing deeply, we are journaling our new identity using appreciation rather than fear-based gratitude. But to truly magnetize this new reality, we have to talk about emotion.
We move into the true art of mental selection and magnetic emotion. This is where the mechanics of creation become incredibly potent. This is the core engine.
It is the specific process of selecting a desired experience from the infinite library, bringing it onto the stage of the mental plane, and then infusing it with immense, overwhelming emotional intensity.
It is the emotion that provides the gravity to magnetize it into physical form.
And we desperately need to demystify the concept of visualization here, because I know so many people who get incredibly frustrated, angry, and they just give up at this exact stage.
Yes, because they hear a guru say, visualize your goal, and they genuinely think they are failing if they cannot sit down, close their eyes, and see a cinematic, high-definition movie playing out inside their eyelids.
They close their eyes, they just see the blackness of their eyelids or maybe some vague shapes, and they think, I'm broken. I can't do this.
It is a massive tragedy of terminology. We use the word visualization, but biologically and mechanically, we really mean conceptualization or sensory immersion. Seeing crisp images with your mind's eye is only one single sensory pathway.
And for a massive portion of the population, visual imagery is not their primary mode of internal processing. You absolutely do not need to see a crisp photographic image of an apple in your hand to deeply, undeniably know you are holding an apple.
Right. You might not see the red skin of the apple, but you can physically feel the heavy weight of it settling into your palm. You can feel the smooth, slightly waxy texture of the skin. You can imagine the crisp sound it would make if you bit into it.
You just viscerally know it is there.
That tactile sensing is equally, if not significantly more, powerful than visual imagery. Because sensing bypasses the critical analytical part of the brain that constantly tries to judge the quality of the picture, and it goes straight to the visceral, biological experience of presence.
You might not visually picture every brick of your new dream home, but you can absolutely feel the profound sense of safety and relief as you walk through the front door.
And this act of sensing is what connects us to the emotional engine. Because if the mind connects us to the infinite possibilities and selects the blueprint, the heart is the actual physical magnet that pulls the material to build it.
Let's look at the biology of the heart. The electromagnetic field generated by the human heart operates with an intensity and magnitude that vastly exponentially dwarfs the electrical output of the brain.
The brain provides the architectural blueprint. It says, here's what we are building. But the heart provides the raw gravitational force. It provides the funding.
The funding.
Yes. If you try to build a beautiful, abundant future with your mind repeating affirmations like a robot, but your heart is entirely closed down, physically trapped in a state of terror, the signal is dead. The blueprint never gets funded.
The blueprint never gets funded. That perfectly clarifies the mechanism. You can have the most beautiful, intricate architectural drawings perfectly visualized in your head, but if the bank account, which is your emotional state, is completely empty, not a single brick will ever be laid.
You must actually feel the profound gratitude, the thrilling excitement, the absolute awe of the experience before it materially exists to justify its creation. This is the ultimate leap of faith required for conscious creation.
Let's illustrate this with a visceral example, because this is the absolute crux of the whole philosophy. Imagine you are standing at the precipice of a total, devastating life collapse, maybe a devastating financial ruin. Every single physical thing around you is actively crumbling.
The intense biological instinct is to focus entirely on the starvation, the terror, the grief of the present moment. Your body is screaming at you to panic.
But instead, mastering this process means the individual closes their eyes, violently drops the physical armor through breath, and completely cellularly embodies the overwhelming relief, the profound warmth, and the absolute joy of total healing and abundance.
They literally feel the warm rays of the sun on their face in a world that physically does not exist yet. They are tasting the sweet harvest while the seed is still buried deep under the dark soil.
They are commanding their nervous system to experience the undeniable relief of absolute victory while they are still standing entirely amidst the smoke of the battlefield.
And in doing so, and holding that emotional frequency against all physical evidence, they are emitting a powerful electromagnetic signal that compels the dense physical echo to begin reorganizing its atoms to match that new emotion.
Okay, I am entirely captivated by this, but I have to represent the listener who is struggling right now. How do you actually practically generate the feeling of profound joy and total relief when your actual literal physical environment is actively terrorizing you?
When the phone is constantly ringing with aggressive collection agencies.
Yes, how do you just magically conjure the emotion of joy when your biology is screaming that you are about to die?
You don't magically conjure it, and this is precisely why the nervous system regulation we discussed at length earlier is the absolute non-negotiable prerequisite to everything we are doing.
Right.
You absolutely cannot manufacture the delicate high frequency of profound joy in a biological environment saturated with the neurochemistry of terror.
It is chemically and physically impossible. Your body will not allow it. You can't sit down and paint a beautiful, delicate masterpiece while you are actively sprinting away from a hungry tiger.
Exactly. The survival instinct will override the creative instinct every single time. Therefore, you must first create artificial physical safety through the mechanical act of deep breath. You must force the heart rate down.
You must biologically convince the ancient, terrified animal body that the immediate physical danger has passed.
Only when those biological alarms are fully silenced can the higher emotional centers of the heart finally open up. You use the breath to clear the thick, choking smoke from the battlefield. And then, in that small, quiet clearing you have created, you plant the tiny seed of the new emotion.
It might not start as ecstatic joy right away. It might start as just a tiny, fragile flicker of neutral peace. And you gently, patiently fan that flicker until it blooms into a sense of relief and eventually the roaring fire of joy.
It's a highly sequential process, breath first. Establish biological safety first, then the emotion can bloom.
But here is the next massive hurdle. Let's say you do it. You capture that elusive, beautiful feeling of your new reality. You feel that warmth of the sun on your face while sitting in your living room. How on earth do you sustain it?
Ah, yes. Because we all have these moments of deep meditation where we feel invincible, but then we open our eyes, step out the front door, plunge into the chaotic noise of our commute, someone cuts us off in traffic, and that feeling of profound peace evaporates in 10 seconds flat.
That is the ultimate defining challenge of mastery. Sustaining the frequency in the relentless face of contradictory physical evidence. And to do this successfully, we cannot rely on sheer willpower. We need cognitive shortcuts.
We need psychological anchors. This brings us to the strategic creation of a highly repeatable anchor sentence.
An anger sense.
Yeah.
Like a mantra, but highly tailored and specific to the exact emotional peak of your desired reality.
Exactly. It is a single, incredibly concise exclamation that perfectly encapsulates the absolute emotional climax of your goal. It should absolutely not be a long, complicated paragraph outlining your plans. It should be a short, effortless, wildly joyous outburst.
Something like, I cannot believe we made it to this beautiful horizon, or everything worked out so much more perfectly than I could have ever possibly imagined.
Yes. The specific phrasing must evoke an immediate, visceral, emotional reaction in your body. This sentence acts as a deliberate shortcut for your complex nervous system.
Through relentless repetition during your morning moments of deep relaxation, you intentionally pair this specific sequence of words with the profound, overwhelming emotional state of having already achieved the goal.
It's like Pavlov's bell. You actively condition your own biology so that the specific sentence mathematically equals the emotion.
You are wiring new neural pathways. So when you are walking through the grocery store and a wave of financial anxiety suddenly hits you, you don't have to stop what you are doing, sit on the floor, and attempt a 20-minute deep sensory immersion.
You simply deploy the anchor sentence. You repeat it mentally, with conviction. And because you have rigorously trained your nervous system, repeating that specific sentence instantly triggers the exact physiological and emotional state of the fulfilled reality.
And to the biological body, experiencing that generated emotion is entirely indistinguishable from experiencing physical reality. The cells in your body don't know the difference between a real, external event and an intensely, vividly imagined one.
They absolutely do not. The brain releases the exact same neurochemicals, the same dopamine, the same serotonin. The physical body catches up to the mental mind. By using the anchor sentence, you are constantly, aggressively overriding the biological stress response with the biological victory response.
You are stubbornly refusing to let the dense physical echo dictate your internal chemistry. And this continuous, relentless maintenance of our internal state leads us perfectly to how we must close the cycle of the day.
We architected the dawn by protecting the alpha state, we anchored the day with our joyous sentence, and now we must fiercely protect our momentum as we transition back across the bridge into sleep.
This introduces the profound concept of mental revision. Mental revision is an extraordinarily powerful, deeply transformative evening habit. Think about the standard human behavior when we reach the end of a day that went poorly.
You experienced a missed career opportunity, you had a harsh argument, or you made a costly mistake. What do? You lay in bed in the dark and you replay it over and over.
You replay it as a devastating tragedy. You analyze every word you should have said. You recall exactly how awful the humiliation felt in your chest. We literally take the absolute worst, most painful part of our day, and we use the highly suggestible transition phase before sleep to carve that trauma as deeply as possible into our neural pathways.
We are essentially ensuring, biologically, that we carry that exact same frequency of failure right into the next morning. You are actively planting the seeds of your own continuous misery in the most fertile soil of your consciousness.
Mental revision is the conscious, deliberate reversal of this highly destructive habit. When you lay down to sleep, you systematically review the events of the day in your mind. And when you encounter a discordant event, something that caused you pain, you absolutely do not replay it as it physically happened in the echo.
You consciously, vividly rewrite the memory. You play director. You imagine the difficult conversation ending in a hug. You imagine the missed career opportunity actually flourishing into a massive win.
You vividly visualize the stranger who was rude to you in the coffee shop, turning around, smiling warmly, and offering a genuine compliment instead. You mentally rehearse the idealized, perfected version of the event with as much intense sensory detail and positive emotion as you can possibly muster.
You overwrite the negative echo. By doing this, you prevent that highly toxic energy from taking root and seeding your future.
It is exactly like saving a complex document on your computer. Imagine you've been furiously typing all day. The document is full of typos, the formatting is a complete mess, maybe there is a whole paragraph that is incredibly angry and poorly written.
Before you shut the computer down for the night, instead of hitting save on that corrupted, messy file, you open it up.
You fix all the spelling errors, you smooth out the formatting, you delete the angry paragraph and write a beautiful one, and then you save the perfected, pristine version. That perfected version is exactly what boots up when you turn the screen on the next morning.
That is a highly accurate technological metaphor for a deeply profound cognitive and spiritual practice. You are fundamentally altering the save file of your own consciousness before it compiles into your physical reality.
But wait, I can hear the extreme skeptic screaming at us right now. Isn't consciously revising history just absolute literal delusion? If my boss yelled at me today, my boss yelled at me. If I lost the major client, the money is gone.
How does lying to myself in bed do anything to change the physical reality of the real world? It feels like madness to some people.
This objection raises a vital question about the fundamental biological and psychological nature of our memories,
Oh?
their actual purpose. You have to understand, you are not trying to change the objective physical past. The event in the physical echo has already occurred. The atoms have already settled.
What you are actively changing is the dense emotional resonance, the biological payload that the past event holds within your nervous system.
So it's not about changing the facts of the universe. It's about changing the emotional payload that the memory delivers to my biology.
Exactly. Memories are not static, objective video recordings sitting in a hard drive. Neurologically, memories are emotional blueprints. They are instruction manuals that tell your nervous system exactly how to behave, what to expect, and what to fear in the future.
If you carry the raw, unedited memory of being a victim of humiliation into your deep sleep, your nervous system wakes up the next day biologically prepared to be victimized again.
It actively scans the horizon for humiliation. It unconsciously attracts it through your posture, your tone of voice, your energetic output. By vividly rewriting the memory, you utilize the brain's process of memory reconsolidation to alter the biological instruction set. You neutralize the toxic trauma.
If you go to sleep deeply, feeling the emotional resonance of being victorious rather than victimized, your biology wakes up functioning as a powerful creator rather than a defensive casualty. You are systematically neutralizing the poison before it can spread into tomorrow's bloodstream.
You are stubbornly refusing to let an old, dead echo dictate the brand new song you are trying to write. You are asserting your absolute, undeniable sovereignty as the first cause of your own reality.
You no longer let external physical circumstances dictate your internal biological state. Your internal state dictates the future circumstances. This represents a monumental tectonic shift in how we process the experience of a human life.
We have journeyed so far in our exploration today. We started by deeply examining the suffocating illusion of the physical world, recognizing the profound truth that every single thing around us is just the delayed starlight, the exhaust fumes of our past thoughts.
We learned the absolute biological necessity of disarming our internal alarms. We understood that to stop desperately reacting to that delayed echo, we must master the mechanical art of deep relaxation, breathing safety into our vagus nerve so that the mind can finally open the gates to universal energy.
We carefully architected our mornings, realizing we must treat that incredibly delicate, highly suggestible alpha wave state as sacred ground. We learned to interface directly with the endless plane of infinite possibilities through generative journaling, rather than instantly flooding our pristine minds with the chaotic newsfeed of the world.
We discovered how to completely bypass the frustration of failing at perfect visual imagery by deeply, viscerally sensing and emotionally feeling our way into a new reality. We established that the heart, with its massive electromagnetic field, is the true engine and magnet of manifestation.
We anchored that newly forged reality with a powerful, joyous, highly specific spoken truth, a Pavlovian cognitive shortcut designed to instantly summon our new state of being amidst the overwhelming noise and stress of our daily commute.
And finally, we learned the profound psychological art of rewriting our nights, actively overwriting the corrupted, painful files of our day with perfected revisions, fiercely protecting our momentum and going to sleep as absolute victors.
It is a vast, comprehensive framework for stepping out of the miserable role of a passive, terrified observer and stepping fully into the seat of the conscious, deliberate architect of existence.
And I want to bring all of this vast information down to a final, broader reflection for you, the listener. Because we spend so much of our lives, years, decades, sometimes our entire existence, deeply believing we are mere background characters in a story written by massive external forces.
We truly believe we are completely at the mercy of the shifting economy, the random circumstances of our birth, the careless actions of others. We walk through our days feeling so incredibly small and powerless.
It is the great tragedy of the human experience, operating under the immense delusion that we are the helpless effect, rather than the powerful cause. But the profound, world-shattering truth revealed in meticulously mapping out these principles today is that you are the first cause.
You are the origin point of it all. The dense physical world, with all its terrifying density, its loud demands, and its seemingly immovable obstacles, is not your master. It never was.
It is simply a blank, waiting canvas, and it is a canvas that is waiting patiently, desperately, for the deliberate brushstrokes of your sustained, intentional, unwavering mental and emotional focus.
You are not here to violently manipulate the canvas. You are here to masterfully mix the paint in the quiet forge of your own consciousness.
Realizing that changes absolutely everything about how you live. It means the ultimate power is entirely irrevocably resting in your hands right now. And so, we want to leave you with a final lingering thought to deeply ponder long after this audio journey fades into silence.
Take a moment to look around the physical room you are in right now. Think about the exact circumstances you face today.
If every single dense physical object and situation around you right now is just a decaying echo of the person you used to be, what magnificent, unseen, breathtaking world is currently being built in the shadows by the powerful person you chose to be today?